Hi guys, so today we're making a swing card or a flip it card, but I really like to call it a swing card. And this starts off with a basic card base of 5 by 7, so it takes a relatively small piece of cardstock or pattern paper to do this with, and that's why I love this card. So I'm using Calypso Coral by Stampin' Up, but you can use any cardstock or paper that you like. And I suggest if you're going to do any kind of embossing or stamping that you do it first before you do your cut marks or your score marks. So here I'm just going to do some stamping, and I'm going to be using Stampin' Up's Petal Parade for this. And I'm going to be using these first two stamps. The third step I ended up not using because I liked the look I got out of the first two stamps. Now I'm going to be doing sort of an Easter themed card, and I'm going to be using two little chicks that are in eggs. So I'm giving it just some grass and some flowers, and I thought using some of these newer stamps by Stampin' Up actually gave it a pretty cool effect. So I'm just using the grass in Gumball Green, and those flowers are in Strawberry Slush. And like I said, I liked that look, so I just left it like that. So now the next step is to actually make our score marks. So I'm going to be using my We Are Memory Keeper stamp score and cut pad, and I love this. And you're going to score it at 2 3/4, and then once again at 4 1/4. And that is it for this scoring. And now we are going to go on and do our cut marks. And I'm going to tell you how I do this, so maybe you can understand this a little bit better. So from each side, I'm going to measure in from 1.5 inches. So one side's 1.5 inches, and then I'm just doing that on the other side. And then I'm going to flip this and measure up 1 inch. Now where this hits 1 inch, I'm actually just putting my ruler along where that 1.5 inch tick mark is, and I'm measuring up 1 inch. And then the final mark that you want on your paper is where that inch mark is in, and then you can just erase the other tick mark if you didn't have it at the inch. You can sort of see what I'm doing there. I'm just lining the ruler up again with my 1.5 inch mark, and then measuring from the other side 1 inch, and just sort of connecting those dots, and you're going to be left with one dot, and your dot is going to be 1.5 inches from the side and 1 inch up from the bottom or 1 inch down from the top, if that makes more sense. And then what you're going to do is take your trimmer or your knife or your scissors, and then you are going to connect those two dots from the top and the bottom. Now you're only going to cut in between those two dots. You're not going to cut from the top or the bottom, just in between those two dots. So I'm using my paper trimmer to do this. And I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to do it again. And then your next step is to actually cut from the top where you've already cut over to the score line. So you're not going to cut in between those score lines. You're actually just going to cut from the top of where you cut before over to the score line and back. So then when you're done, you're going to have something that looks like this. And that's actually going to be your swinging mechanism. Now mine had a little issue cutting out some of the points, so I had to sort of maneuver that a little bit, but that's what you have. Now this next step is totally optional. If you just want to stamp right onto that, that is completely fine. But I'm actually taking some white cardstock, and I am just very lightly going over it with some Strawberry Slush ink. Now I only needed to do one side, but I don't know what I was thinking when I did this, and I totally messed this up, and you will see that here in just 1 second. But it would have worked with just one side. So this cardstock is ultimately going to measure 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. I had measured mine just a little hair too big, So it wasn't swinging correctly. So I just went on and took a 1/4 inch on each side. So yeah, it ultimately is going to be 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So there you see, I'm sort of off the camera there. I'm measuring it to see what it came out at, and that's what it came out as. Okay, so that's what's going to go on there. So now I have two things that I cut out earlier with my brother's scan and cut. One is this egg with the little feet sticking out. And I'm just going to glue that with using my Tombow Mono multi-purpose glue, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite adhesives for things like this because it is repositionable for a little bit, but then it really becomes a really strong hold. So I'm just gluing that on there. Now, if I was doing this correctly, I would have went on and glued that card to the front of my swinging mechanism there, and then I would have put this one on a different card on the back. I don't know what I was thinking, but I glued this on the back of that and I ended up having to fix it, and I fix it here in a little bit. But like I said, this one is totally optional. You could go on and just put this directly onto the card and skip this step, but I liked the look of the border and stuff going around it. So, but here you'll see I am gluing my chicken together, the little chick that comes out. And this part had to be done anyways because I had to attach the head of the chick a little bit lower than what the picture actually called for because of the amount of space and the size of the card. So I'm doing this sort of off camera here, and I'm really proud of myself because I got this. I was smiling and I was like, oh, I got this. This is so cute. This is so going to work. And then, you know, I get this attached, and right when my adhesive decided it dried, it was way too late to try to get it off and get it to work. So, yeah, you'll see that I'm starting to almost realize that I probably totally did this wrong. And that's what the glue looks like. So I go to glue this on, and luckily I didn't glue it on to the mechanism yet. So now I'm folding it. So what you want to do is actually fold that back piece towards you and then flip it around and fold the other piece in the other direction. So then you have your card, and that's what it's going to look like. And then I go on and fold it first, so I sort of realize what is the front of the card and what's the back of the card and what you're going to see. And here's when I realized I totally messed it up. I didn't know what I was thinking. So off camera, I'm actually like trying to pry off the egg because the egg's actually the bigger part that I could actually pry off. So there I have the egg off, as you can see. And I didn't even bother doing another card. I just put some more glue on there, and I just glued it directly to the card. Now, the other thing I did a little bit differently is you do not see that whole front of the card like you do when you open it in the back. So I actually positioned my egg so it was over a little bit so you would see almost all of it. So you'll see here in a second that when I position it a little bit over, you can see all of it. So that's another thing you might want to keep in mind is you're not going to see that whole entire insert of your card until you open it. So the chick fit perfectly on the inside, especially since, you know, I got this right this time. And so there we go. That is the finished card. So you can see the chick and then the chick inside the outside of the egg. And you know, you can do some more decorating, but I thought it turned out awesome. So thanks guys, have a great day.